Are you ready for a big-ass sequel, dude?
Yeah, sorry this is coming out a little bit late. My schedule kind of got in the way of plans, so we're doing this all for you here on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm still going to do my best to avoid spoilers, but you've probably already seen it by now, so whatever.
And if you haven't, maybe you want to, maybe you won't by the time AJ's done.
Maybe you saw one and not the other and had interest in both or something.
Potentially.
But we're going to start, we watched The Hangover first, but we're going to start with Fast and Furious 6 because it's already the bigger movie by a long shot. Basically, they've pretty much been picking up where they left off. Like, they're really... It's kind of like Saw.
It's got a weird timeline, though.
They started off, like, just as regular movies, and now you realize there's, like, this big, long, elaborate timeline that they're doing.
But you didn't really know that was there until here. I mean, we thought that something was earlier than it was, and now we know it's later.
You're getting ahead of yourself.
No, I'm just saying that's how it goes, though. I'm not saying anything more than that, at least not now.
Well, we'll end with that, but we'll start with, of course. We'll start with the plot, which is, well, I'll get into that criticism as soon as I say this. The very first scene is Dom and Brian racing.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like on this really windy road, and you got the ocean, and it's all, you know, they're doing their old thing. It's like like you're going back to the first one almost.
Yep.
But then, of course, because it's all about happiness and families now, we learn that they weren't racing; they were rushing to the hospital because Jordana Brewster is having little Paul Walker. And then that's when we go into the opening credit sequence, which shows you like bits of the memorable stuff with the other ones. Notice there really wasn't anything from Too Fast, Too Furious except the shot of Ludacris's afro.
Of course.
Because that's all anybody remembers from Too Fast, Too Furious.
Exactly. Fast
5 actually brought back Eva Mendes in the after credit scene, but Eva Mendes did not come back for the movie itself.
That's true.
But anyway, obviously as that plotline tells you, Letty is still alive.
Yep.
Which is not surprising at all because her death was extremely shady in Fast and Furious. Because she's been this big character through the whole series. And by the whole series, I mean the first movie, but people loved Michelle Rodriguez in the early 2000s.
Yep.
And I think it was Paul Walker that just got a call. It's just like, oh, hey, Letty's dead. And we just cut to a funeral. It's like, that's, did we miss something? And
I just cut out in editing, apparently, for time.
But, of course, we learned that she's still alive. And the reason, well, we'll get back to that, but the thing is Luke Evans, who has been in a few things. The only thing that comes to mind for me is he was the detective in The Raven.
Oh my god.
But he's in other things.
Yeah.
And he's going to be in other things. But he is like... He's like the Owen Davian of Fast and Furious villains. He's like the... They've never seen somebody this big against them.
He also got a team of like tactical people that works with him that can match every single thing they throw at him too.
He's like a military guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course he's, wreaking havoc. And they find out that Letty's working for him.
Mm-hmm.
So Hobbs gets the idea to say, hey, Dom, Letty's still alive and she's working with this guy, so why don't you guys help me, take him down since you have like a personal vendetta I can use in my favor.
That's how it works sometimes with criminals, apparently.
The thing with Letty is, I'm sure that's... Fast 5 just touched on it.
Mm.
And the trailers never brought it up.
No.
It just confuses the shit out of you. But about an hour in, we learned the thing with Letty is John Ortiz comes back from the fourth one. He was the villain in the fourth one.
Yep.
And Paul Walker actually goes Billy Costigan and puts himself in the prison. And John Ortiz comes in and basically tells us about... she was left for dead in the her car exploded. Yep. I think they touched on that in Fast and Furious, but they never really, showed us in detail. But she survived, but the trouble is her memory's completely gone of anybody that she used to know.
Yeah.
So Luke Evans basically takes her as a clean slate and makes her work for him. And then a shitload of action scenes ensue.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I'll go into those about, the action scenes are great. Like, they're really, like, as you saw in the trailer, they just keep amping it up. Like, I don't know, I have no idea how the action scenes in 7 could top what all they did in this.
I think there's something else in 7 that may top other than action scenes.
Now, the thing is, as good as, like, I love great action scenes. That's what makes action movies. And you don't really see them much that often anymore, well done. It just makes movies boring. But as great as the action scenes are executed in this movie, I think you could have, like, cut them in half and saved a lot of time, and they still would have had the same effect.
Agreed.
Because that first chase scene, like, I don't know if it's the first time they're chasing Luke Evans, and he's in, like, his thing that can, like, flip cars over. That scene felt like it went a really long time.
Looked kind of like an Indy car.
Yeah.
But it had, like, something from, like, what is it? What word am I looking for? Death Race. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. But, yeah, those scenes were really awesome. It's just... The movie's 2 hours and 10 minutes, and it really didn't need to be.
It's too long.
Yeah. There's, like, and a lot of that could have been, like, if you just cut the action scenes in half, and maybe, like, they still would have been as great as they were. You didn't have to make them that long.
Agreed.
But then again, Justin Lin is, like, apparently he's not back for the 7th one, but he's been the saving grace so far. Like, I think he's done all of them since Tokyo Drift.
I believe so.
And the only thing he'd done before that was Annapolis and that indie movie Better Luck Tomorrow.
It's a very strange pedigree going into Fast and Furious series.
But I actually kind of like this. He's actually really, like, into what he does. Like, you know how everybody hated Annapolis?
Oh, yeah.
Well, just recently, when Franco was on Stern promoting Spring Breakers, he mentioned that he did a really bad movie called Annapolis when he was early in his career. And Justin Lin is really offended by that. And he said whether the movie is good or not, you know, Justin Lin went on this thing about how I can see why what Franco said was hurtful, and how a lot of people worked on that movie, and how Annapolis was a stepping stone to where he is now with these massively grossing movies. And I, don't kill me for this, but I actually didn't think Annapolis was that bad.
It wasn't that bad. I don't remember much about it, but I remember liking it overall.
Now, despite the fact that I say the action scene should have been shorter, there was one action scene that I thought actually could have been longer. Just one. And that's the big scene in the trailer with the tank.
I agree.
That action scene rivals the highway scene in The Matrix Reloaded in awesomeness. And I love its reveal, too, because they think they're doing something clever by using the giant rope that Ludacris builds up for the whole movie.
Yeah.
And it stops the thing, but then this fucking tank breaks out.
And then it becomes World's Scariest Police Chases, the movie.
And the delivery everybody loves from the trailer, where Ludacris just can say, guys, they got a tank. And it's just like...
Let's improvise. Let's drive around it.
Some people get out okay. Like, you can see some people getting out of their cars and running off the street, but some people die.
There's some serious dead bodies in that entire sequence, but it doesn't go over that.
They don't let you know, but...
Oh, there's dead people.
Dead. That's worse than the scene in The Dark Knight when Batman's all, oh, I don't kill anybody, I don't kill anybody, I don't kill anybody. But then there's that scene where it's the garbage truck, and the tumbler goes up underneath it and smashes it into the ceiling. It's like, that guy's gotta be dead.
He died for the cause.
It's like, way to go, Bruce. But anyway, that stuff is good, and like I said, John Ortiz is only in one scene, but his character was pretty cool. Like, he was the best villain they had until Luke Evans.
Agreed.
And, but he's only in one scene. But, apart from that, and I do like what they've been doing. Like, a lot of people complain about this, but a lot of people's big problem is that, The Fast and the Furious was a movie about illegal street racing.
Yes.
The plots for the movies now are anything but that.
They're still street racing, though.
Like, one or two scenes, and they're not even remote. The plots don't even remotely touch on illegal street racing, but...
Nope.
I like that they're like, it keeps from redundancy because there's been a different plot for every movie.
Exactly.
And it's not just like the same thing over and over again. And it's interesting how these plots manage to tie in to the continuous timeline that they have going. And, are you looking at this?
No, I caught that, but I'm looking at something over in Epic.
Yeah, that's what I actually was pointing at it. There's just I just wrote it down because it's a funny thing.
It made me laugh.
I think it's ludicrous. He has his phone set to where when Hobbs calls him,
yeah,
it comes up Samoan Thor.
That was funny.
Because I think that also might be kind of an in-joke, because wasn't The Rock like a popular choice when they were way back before Thor was ever made, and they were like fantasy casting?
All the fanboys are calling for Triple H, though, because of that sledgehammer and everything. So.
He has Triple H's hair too, right?
He does.
His old hair. I don't know if he still has that look or not.
He looks like Bobby Roode now, yeah.
Big problem with this movie that just by watching it I knew was going to be a problem, and I noticed online that it's a big problem.
Mark Vincent can't act.
All of the big payoffs in this movie are in the trailer.
That's agreed.
Like the scene in the trailer where Dom is in the plane that's on fire, and he gets in the car and he drives out through the front. That's like one of the very last scenes, and there's like a massive build up. There's a massive build up to that scene where like you go, oh my god, how's he gonna get out of the plane? And then you remember, oh yeah, the whole scene is in the trailer.
Not so creative editing.
And a lot of people are talking about how the last action scene is so implausible. Vin Diesel even brought this up on Ellen. Notice for that last action scene to be plausible, that's got to be the longest runway in the history of the world. That runway's got to be like 10 miles long.
No lie. And they said they were like on an army base. Those things are tiny compared.
But talking about that, like with Vin Diesel actually pointing that out, a lot of people are happy about. The Fast and the Furious was a movie that really took itself seriously.
Yeah.
And ever since, like, Fast 5 and forward, they're pretty much in self-parody territory, and they know it.
Yep.
So, they do dumb shit that's implausible on purpose now, just because it's cool. Which is what movies should be. Because, like, I can't remember we were talking about a movie recently where I was talking about that, but I'm getting really tired of people bitching about things not being realistic.
It's escapism. Things don't have to be realistic if it's escapism.
Like Nolan's got everybody on this everything must be grounded in reality thing, but what happened to movies being fantastical? Wasn't that their whole purpose to begin with? To see shit that you can't see in real life. You know, but whatever. If that's, I don't know, maybe that'll blow over. People want different things all the time. Going on that, by the way, I couldn't help but notice, did you by any chance notice that the characters in these movies are fucking invincible?
Oh, yeah.
Like when you see the car, like, flip forward in the trailer and it, like, goes through the glass building.
Yeah.
Tyrese is in that car. And he gets out, he's in the next scene just fine.
Vin Diesel flips like 17 times and he's like, I'm fine.
After he breaks out of the plane and he flips into the explosion, he just, nah, I'm fine.
Have white wife beater will travel.
It's like nobody but the villains in these movies are destructible.
And even they're not until the very end, till the last final scene.
Yeah, it's like Luke Evans can drive around in that little Indy car and flip cars. But what's going to happen the one time that he does like a car that's too heavy to do that?
That's left on the cutting room floor because he's dead.
Yeah, well, speaking of that,
we killed 6 stuntmen. Sorry, guys.
Everybody knows what it is. It's not a surprise. So I'm just going to openly talk about the end credit scene.
Awesome.
Everybody knows that Han is dead because Han died in Tokyo Drift.
Yep.
And it confused the shit out of everybody when he showed up in Fast and Furious. But then everybody quickly realized, oh, Tokyo Drift must be later. Well, Tokyo Drift has finally come back into the timeline.
It's later than even anybody thought because it's actually after Fast 6.
Once again, much like Letty's death. Han's death was very,
questionable?
It just kind of happened.
Yeah, out of nowhere.
His car just exploded. Just like that. Yeah. His car didn't just explode.
No, it did not.
This was an act of pure revenge.
Yes.
And, everybody thought it was a, I was going to say something when you mentioned Death Race, but I thought I'd wait till I brought this up.
Alright.
But,
oh, yeah, good point. I didn't think about that.
But, yeah, So I can't fucking like the huge thing.
Oh my god, it was awesome.
The huge thing in Fast Five that everybody talked about was the fight between Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson.
Yes.
I wonder what the reaction is going to be when we get Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson versus Jason Statham.
Oh my god. Well, you mentioned Owen Davian being Luke Evans in this movie.
But you think the Owen Davian series is going to be him?
I think it's funny it's Owen Davian and Owen Shaw. Like, they're both named Owen. And just like me. But, no, I honestly think that, and I thought for a second, I was like, well, wait a minute. Maybe he's not Owen Shaw. Maybe he's just, like, a trick, and the main guy behind everything is going to be Jason Statham.
By the way, their names aren't too different. According to IMDb, his name is Ian Shaw.
Ian Shaw?
Like, that must have been confusing to the parents.
Yeah.
Like, you know how sometimes parents call one kid the other and
oh
the
yeah,
other way around. Owen and Ian, I guess.
When Dwayne Johnson says it on the trailer, it actually says said Owen Shaw.
So yeah, the seventh one already has a release date. I think it's July 14th, 2014.
That sounds right.
So yeah, this is going down. I don't even have they shot it yet? They might have, or they are now.
They might be working on it. I know Dwayne's working on Hercules right now for Brett Ratner.
Yeah, wasn't he out of that because of his thing?
Well, he got hurt, and now he's trying to get back to full capability so he can actually still be in the movie. I don't know if he's going to be in this one because I've heard conflicting reports about it.
Speaking of Dwayne, if you want to try a drinking game,
yeah, no lie,
be sure to get around with your friends and get a lot of alcohol. And every time Dwayne refers to Owen Shaw and says, "Let's get this son bitch," take a drink, and by the end of this movie, you'll be done for.
It's 2.5 hours, close enough, and it's bad.
Well, I'm exaggerating for joke qualities, but I think he only said it like 3 or 4 times.
4 times, I think.
But still, it was the same line every time too. Let's get this son bitch, and then there was when he's got the rifle on him.
I think it's the ADR loop. They just decided to put the same thing in 4 times.
Yeah. So, yeah, people are always complaining about Vin Diesel and Paul Walker can't act, but you know, well, if you don't think Paul Walker can act, you need to track down Running Scared.
Running Scared is awesome.
And for Vin Diesel, you need to track down Boiler Room and Find Me Guilty. And obviously one of my favorite movies ever is Knock Around Guys.
You want to talk about an underrated Vin Diesel performance, The Iron Giant?
Yeah, I guess so. It's kind of hard to use that to his advantage though, because he's voicing a big ass, robot.
Yeah, but still, I mean, it's still a great performance.
He's in Saving Private Ryan. End of discussion.
Yeah. So is half of the free world, it seems like.
He dies saving a child in Saving Private Ryan. Give the guy a break. But yeah, they're like fun. But yeah, that's just the main thing that bothers me about these movies, and I know that's what everybody loves. Like, and I know I should be fine with it, but because that's their whole deal. But the whole family thing, like. Some of those scenes get so cheesy.
It's like the end of The Expendables. That scene in the end of The Expendables when they're at the bar and everything, and everybody's all happy to be alive, and they're all treating everybody like brothers.
And it just gets so like.
No, we want our action stars back.
Oh yeah, and as far as the there is one thing I gotta point out. I'm not one for the gay conspiracy thing, but because that's just overplayed for many things, but. If you watch Too Fast, Too Furious, Paul Walker and Tyrese are practically in love with each other.
Yeah. And
they're like always climbing on each other. And there was like a theory about that. There is one that doesn't happen often. There's just one scene in this movie where Tyrese is talking. They got pictures of Owen Shaw's crew on the monitors, and Tyrese is able to relate every one of them to somebody in their group. And then the only one left for Paul Walker is the blonde woman. And Tyrese makes the comment, "Don't worry, Brian, you're still the prettiest blonde in the room," or something like that.
I can't believe I'm the one that's going to bring this up, but Gina Carano in the movie.
What about her? I
mean, she seems to be the it girl when it comes to like action woman right now.
Because she was in Haywire.
Exactly. And a lot of people on the internet talk her up like crazy.
Wonder Woman.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this was the fight that we wanted all along, was her and Michelle Rodriguez, and we got it twice in this movie.
Yeah, by the way, I gotta bring that up. First off, I was never a fan of Michelle Rodriguez, and I'm pretty sure she's got a dick, but... but we'll go...
You can't tweet him or anything, so there's no way of getting hold of AJ, so sorry about that.
I'm sure she's very nice. But, like I was saying,
she's very familiar.
her thing is really tired. Like, her thing from the early 2000s, since she's still doing it.
Girl Fight?
She's the, I really love that movie.
I did too, actually.
The whole thing about Michelle Rodriguez being, like, I can't remember the line now, but she calls out some guy in the movie, and she says, like, I'm gonna come over there and turn you into a pussy or something.
Yeah.
She was retorting off of something he had said, but I can't remember what it was now, but she was doing the whole... I may be a woman, my dick's bigger than yours thing, and that's, for her particularly, that's played out.
The only person entering into measuring would be Brian Mills. And Brian Mills is not in this movie, obviously, because he's a fictional character.
Yeah, that's, I was never in love with these movies, but I always liked them, except for Too Fast, Too Furious, which...
No one seemed to really like.
Which is really funny, because you have, the first Fast and Furious was directed by Rob Cohen, who did Triple X and Alex Cross, and, I think he did, Torque.
Potentially.
He had something to do
He's
with
had
it.
connection to everybody he worked with in the movie before.
Either way, his filmography's not that great.
No.
And then from then on, they've been directed by Justin Lin, from 3 on, who, we already went through his filmography.
Yeah.
Too Fast, Too Furious is directed by John Singleton, who is a 2-time Oscar nominee for writing and directing Boys in the Hood. You'd think his would have been the one with a little more...
yeah, a little more depth. Yeah.
But when you realize that he cast Cole Hauser as the villain, that movie was doomed from the get-go.
It's over.
At least Devin Aoki hasn't come back.
Hey now.
I think that's all I got to say about Fast and Furious, but...
I like Devin Aoki.
It's alright. Like, I was never, totally in love with these movies, but they're fun.
They're guilty pleasures.
Yeah.
Really.
They're not even that... they're pretty well made. So I wouldn't even call them guilty, really. But
I mean, the last one I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed Fast and Furious.
I mean, especially when you talk to uptight film snob people, they'll, counter themselves by saying, I really, really liked it, but it's so dumb. It's so dumb, but I still had fun with it, just...
Dumb comedy can work. It just doesn't seem too much anymore.
Yeah, that's the thing. I contradict myself so much, and I'm sorry, but...
I do too.
Obviously, I hate it when movies are totally humorless.
Yeah.
But then, movies like this have a lot of humor in them. But these, pretty much every comedic moment was just really obvious. You could see the quips coming from, a mile away every single time they happened, and it's, I never actually laughed during the movie. There was one I didn't quite get. And I'm probably going to feel dumb when I learn about it, but
potentially,
it got a big laugh. But it was, Ludacris was talking about picking up women or something, or, trying to get women or something. He made, a size joke, I think.
Okay.
And then Han made a joke about, I guess that's why your women wear so much bling.
That's dumb.
I'm not quite sure what that was.
I think that was,
Was he saying, are you compensating for your size with a lot of money?
Bling as in your jewelry.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's it. That has to be it. You're small, so you have to appear that you're rich even if you're not.
I can't prove that, but if that's what that quip meant, it didn't really have a good lead in.
No, not at all.
So I don't know, but people in the theater loved most of those, so.
Well.
You know.
And I like Chris Bridges as an actor, honestly. He's going back to Ludacris now. I mean, Ludacris Bridges. But I mean, when he was serious Chris Bridges and he was doing Crash and all sorts of...
He did Crash and Hustle and Flow in the same year.
Yeah, 2 awesome movies. And 2005.
They both won Oscars and they both had Terrence Howard in them.
Darn right they did.
Alright, yeah, Ludacris
I predicted them both.
Ludacris is in a movie that won Best Picture. Just let that go in your mind for a little bit.
So is Danny
Brendan Fraser's in the same movie.
So is Danny McBride.
No, he's not. Up in the air lost.
I thank God.
Um,
He's in an Oscar-nominated movie. That's enough.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, just let that settle. Brendan Fraser and Ludacris were in the same movie, and it won Best Picture.
That's very true.
All right, let's go onward now because we're 25 minutes in.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been instructed to just not say anything.
I'm not allowed to talk during this.
Everybody knows about your bias.
I have extreme bias for this, and I'm not going to say any more than that. If you want to know the real story, then just find me somewhere, and if not, then that's all I want to say. So, this is AJ's review of Part 3.
Alright, so, as you saw in the trailers, this movie went for something, like, I didn't think much of the first one, but I saw it a couple more times and it started to grow on me. And the second one was, you know, pretty much what everybody says, just the same old shit. I didn't hate Part 2. I didn't really feel anything towards Part 2. I didn't hate it, but I didn't really, like, feel the need to stick up for it or anything. It was just there. It just existed. It just existed so there could be a trilogy, basically. But this one's going a very interesting route where, it appears Todd Phillips decided to make a crime movie instead of a comedy. But it's hard to tell. Well, you see in the trailers that they do the, in a very bizarre scene, that's another one of those that really set the bar for you can't tell what's supposed to be serious and what's supposed to be funny. You get that horrible scene in the trailer where he decapitates the giraffe with a bridge, and Jeffrey Tambor, who is his dad, is yelling at him. And Jeffrey Tambor, who gets the 4th credit, by the way, dies of a heart attack in this scene, and we're like 5 minutes in. And it's just, the scene is weird the way it happens because Galifianakis puts his headphones on to drown out Jeffrey Tambor's voice, and he goes back in the dining room, which is still in the shot, and he's yelling at his mom. And he starts to have a heart attack and die on the floor, and his mom's trying to resuscitate him, and Galifianakis is just zoning out with the headphones. Was that supposed to be funny? Because it was really disturbing. Like, I don't want to give him too much credit if he failed, but if Todd Phillips were to come to me and say that scene was meant to be, you know, startling, I would buy it. But he does not distinguish what he's doing with this tonally. So, that leads to, this is all because Galifianakis is having, like, a breakdown because he's off his meds. And they have this intervention for him, which, by the way, there's this... In the first 2 movies, Alan is just a really weird character, but in this movie, they, like, go all out to make him creepy. Particularly in during his intervention, you have, the Wolfpack is there, and his mom's there, and their old housekeeper's there, and this kid is there. And you could see Bradley Cooper kind of get this startled look on his face because the mom casually says, this is a kid who goes swimming with Alan. And this kid's like maybe 10 or 12. And the movie doesn't touch on this, but the reason why Bradley Cooper has that look on his face, why that's weird, is if you remember, you won't, but them, the very beginning of the first one, when they're waiting for Bradley Cooper to come out of the school, Alan talks about how he's not allowed within the vicinity of a playground. And he doesn't explain why. And it's just a little awkward the way they throw in. The joke is that he goes swimming with this kid on a regular basis. So, Alan's supposed to be the big, lovable, cuddly character, but why do they keep hinting that he's a pedophile? That's really weird. But then they never, like, that weird look that Bradley Cooper has on his face when she says that, that's the end of the subject. It never comes back, and they never talk about it. But then, so they decide that they're going to take him to this place. I guess he's going to get therapy there or something. But then they get run off the road by Black Dog, and Black Dog works for John Goodman. And that's when you start to wonder if maybe Todd Phillips and everybody in the cast and everybody claims that they had no idea that the first one was going to be the breakout sensation that it was. They had no idea it was going to be as big as it was in Spawn 2 sequels. However, there is a scene in the first one that I remembered where Stu is confronting Black Dog about selling roofies to Alan. And Black Dog realizes he made the wrong choice. He made the wrong sale, and he says, Marshall's going to be pissed at me. And they leave it at that for the next 2 movies. That seems like a weird... Like, if you don't think you're going to make any other movies, that's a little weird to just bring up this unseen person that might be pissed off by this and think they're not going to have a plan for it. Yeah, and in case you didn't remember that, they play the line like 3 different times, because they apparently they think you've completely forgotten about the movie, but yeah, the Marshal that Black Dog is referring to is John Goodman, and he's pissed off because Chow stole a shitload of gold from him. I lost him in the middle, but he goes through this whole thing about how Black Dog selling the roofies to Alan led to a series of events that somehow led to Chow stealing his gold. So, obviously Chow was arrested by Paul Giamatti at the end of the second one. So, the beginning is him breaking out, like, in a spoof of Shawshank, where, that's it. So, the plot goes from there, I'll just leave it at that. But, to go into some things, like, first off, a lot of people said that this would be the last one, mainly for the fact that Bradley Cooper is now an Oscar nominee and may not want to do movies like this anymore. And I couldn't help but notice that, obviously when you watch, interviews, like, yeah, Bradley Cooper, Ed Helms, and Zach Galifianakis all together, and they're all talking about how much they love doing these and all that. However, I couldn't help but notice, did you notice how many times throughout the movie Bradley Cooper says the line, "Who gives a fuck?" I'm beginning to think I don't know if the script was self-aware or if it was Bradley Cooper that was self-aware. And on top of being self-aware, Ed Helms had a lot of lines like that too. Like, well, they were in the car, they were in the van, and they were driving, and Bradley Cooper's just trying to find ways to compliment Alan. So he just says, that's a really nice vest you got on. I've been meaning to tell you that. And Alan says, yeah, it was my dad's. He was wearing it when he died. And Ed Helms kind of stops and goes, that's a little intense. I almost thought, it felt a lot like that was Ed Helms' reaction to reading the script in the writing room. There were a couple of lines where Ed Helms gave me that feeling that he was talking to the script and not to the characters in the movie. But anyway, yeah, the movie has death in it. Like a lot of people who hate this movie claim that this movie tries so hard to be dark, but the second one was actually darker. I don't think that's true. I think this one's a lot darker and goes in a completely different place. And let me throw that on the table right now. This movie is getting scathing reviews. Like except for Christy Lemire, weirdly enough. Everybody else in the world cannot stand this movie. They just completely hate it and bash the shit out of it. It's not that bad. It's not. Like, the main problem with it is the comedy. Like, if this movie were to go down its path the way it was, this is what makes a lot of people hate it, and you can probably see where it's coming from, but when this movie fails is when it's being a comedy. Every other aspect of it, the comedy is only like maybe 30% of it. And the comedy is the only thing it fails at. And there are some, it's not, a laugh riot by any means, but there are parts that got me to laugh out loud, like when Goodman's telling him everything that's going down, and he realizes he was able to connect Chow with the Wolf Pack through letters that Alan and Chow were sending each other. And Alan's is begging for him, don't read those are private. And just hearing John Goodman and John Goodman's angry voice say, Dear Chow, they brought the McRib back, it's amazing. And that's the whole letter. Anything in John Goodman's angry voice can, help dialogue. But, I could even hear some of Charlie from Barton Fink come out of him a little bit. But, it's amazing how much weight John Goodman's lost. You can't even recognize him anymore. But I actually kind of like a lot of people say he's completely pointless and he's just there to be a stock villain, but I actually I would like to see John Goodman play this part in an actual crime movie and have a lot more screen time. Because pretty much all the funny lines come from him. I guess. Like, there was maybe, Ed Helms had a couple of things, and Bradley Cooper had a couple of things, but I'm not a Galifianakis fan, I'm not a Ken Jeong fan, but, you know, I don't find them, like, I guess I just built myself up from the reviews to, like, because I had faith in this for a while, but then the reviews started coming out, and everybody was hating it, and everybody was saying it's an Alan and Chow movie and nothing else, but I guess because it was built up that way, Alan and Chow didn't really annoy me as much as I was expecting to, and the movie's not really as devoted to them as people were making it out to be. But, this movie still has, you know, a lot of problems, but it still has a lot of things that people might be blowing out of proportion. One of the problems I have, like, I mean, they even make the joke where, I think it's Bradley Cooper was talking about not killing John Goodman's dogs, and Chow just laughs it off and says, who the fuck do you think you are, PETA, or something like that. Clearly these guys aren't PETA, because, and I'm not one of those, I don't eat meat, I don't wear fur people, but still, cruelty to animals is, you know, bad. The thing is this movie hates animals. We have the decapitated giraffe. I said that as one syllable. Chow smothers a rooster for no reason. Like, there's this, that's the thing, is when this movie forgets it's a comedy, yeah, he's shooting at them. And he smothers one with a pillow. The thing is, though, is that was for no reason, because it was like, the movie would forget it was a comedy, because it would get so involved in the plot. Which, you know, plot's a good thing. But you gotta remember that you're a comedy, too. You know, if Todd Phillips were to tell us whether it's a comedy or not, because we don't know. But these weird gags would just come from out of nowhere for the simple fact to remind you it was a comedy, because they're doing a lot of plot with Chow, and then suddenly Alan knocks over, he talks about he got into cockfighting, and then Alan knocks over all the chicken cages, and they get out, and like, Phil's throwing them out the window, and Chow starts shooting at them, and then one he just smothers with a pillow, but of course he says because they're on cocaine. And lastly, they give Demerol to the dogs to knock them out. And then later Goodman is yelling at them about how his dogs are dead. And when they say, no, they're just unconscious because we gave them Demerol. And Goodman says, no, Chow snapped their necks on his way out the door. It's like, that's a little excessive to go for a gag. But like, it's like, just how many times did they think the animal cruelty joke was going to work? Like, nobody, like, when you watch even in our theater, the crowd was pretty reaction heavy. Like, you know, they laughed when they were supposed to and all that. But the giraffe decapitation gets no reaction because people don't know how to take something like that, and it's, I don't know. I suppose it's edgy and, you know, risky, but it's just horrific. It's just, and not to mention that it goes through the windshield of a family car. Like, I mean, I'm not like, you know, oh, everything has to be, you know, family friendly, but, you know, it's just, some things are just unpleasant and probably shouldn't, you know, be done, especially for the supposed sake of comedy. That being said, though, I really didn't think the movie was that bad. It's got some good scenes, and the scene that fucking freaked me out, where obviously I have a bad problem with heights, and there is a scene that's actually pretty effective when Phil and Alan have to scale down Caesar's Palace to get into Chow's room, because he's in there like Buddy Israel. Exactly. He's even in the same place. And they even talk about seeing prostitutes go in and out, and it's like, you know, I think somebody even brought up in a review once, why not just do what everybody did to Buddy Israel and send a shitload of assassins? Why didn't Goodman just send a shitload of people into Caesar's Palace for him? That's another plot device that was kind of irritating, was, I mean, I suppose you could go into Goodman's head and say something like, Chow isn't Goodman's problem, and he shouldn't have to worry about it. But there were so many opportunities where Goodman could have just gone and gotten Chow. But he kept insisting that the Wolfpack do it. Like, even when they were, like, they say, like, hey, this is where Chow is, you know, we're on our way there, and Goodman's on his way there in a plane. But he tells them to go get him. I guess, I don't know. That's my only theory. Was Goodman thought it shouldn't be his problem, I guess. So yeah, you could. The thing is I hear a lot of bashing about this movie, but a lot of people just say. People don't really get into specifics of why they hate it. They just say that they do. That I've seen. Maybe I'm just not reading the right reviews, but I don't know what the problem is, because people made it out, like, some of the reviews I've heard make it out to be like one of the worst movies ever made. That's not even close. Like, this, I wouldn't even call this movie remotely bad. It's fine. Unless that's, like I was saying, I guess the reviews just build me up for something so horrifically terrible. There was nothing that bad in it. I guess you can stay after the credits, a little after the credits, if you want to see Chow's dick again. But that was just, and there's a joke with Ed Helms, but overall that's just kind of weird. And yes, they don't. If you're like really pissed off that they don't get hungover in this one, they do. It's just the very, very last scene, and it's during the credits. But overall, I did like his approach. I liked that it's almost... I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say it was supposed to be 30% comedy. But yeah, I'm just going to meet it in the middle. If it was supposed to be 30% comedy, 70% crime movie, good on him. If it was supposed to be a comedy, he failed pretty badly. But I'm going to take it as it was supposed to be a lot more serious. So, yeah. And the whole Melissa McCarthy thing, she's only in 2 scenes, thankfully. Like, you knew, as soon as Bridesmaids came out and was a hit, you knew she was going to show up in this. But this is better than Bridesmaids. All 3 of these are better than Bridesmaids. So there's that. I don't know. Hangover 2 and Bridesmaids might be on the same level, I think. I'm not a fan of either one, but... so... I think that's about it for that. So, just... if you think you'll like it, don't listen to the reviews, because it's really not that bad. But, it's pretty much hated universally, so... I guess you can take whatever word you want for it. Oh, now let's go on to a pretty the disappointing point of the day.
Oh my god, this is so much build up for this movie. So excited for the first trailer I saw of this movie, and it's kind of like, this is going to be amazing. And I heard the voice cast, and the voice cast is phenomenal. And then it just.
Well, here's the thing: is this movie was originally called Leaf Men, and then they changed it to Epic. I'm assuming they only changed it to Epic because Epic is a popular term now.
Yeah.
And Leaf Men, maybe not so much. Well, Leaf Men would have been a lot more fitting because this movie is not epic in any way. It's like an hour and a half, and it's boring. Like the kids. If you're gonna take your kids to Epic, the kids in our theater were really enjoying themselves. Like, they didn't get antsy till like the last 10 minutes, but I couldn't keep myself awake.
I'm sure the parents were having a grueling time doing that as well.
I kept looking to kind of tell if parents were enjoying it or not, but I couldn't tell.
It was deadly silent in that theater too. Even when like kids would react, it still would be like stopped immediately.
But yeah, you've seen the plot, and it's it's Avatar meets Honey, I Shrunk the Kids meets Arthur and the Invisibles meets a number of Secret World of Arrietty.
Arrietty came to mind immediately for me.
The girl is with her dad, and her dad is voiced by Jason Sudeikis, but he looks like Conan O'Brien.
And he also comes off like Wayne Szalinski too.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids in this movie. But is this based on anything? I think it's based on something.
It's based off of books, like something I read I was watching the credits, and it's something like The Leaf Men and something like that. And it's a book series, apparently, is what it is. So that's why it was called Leaf Men originally. I didn't know that either. I just found that out just a minute ago.
Well, 20
minutes ago.
There are these little people, and they live in the grass and shit. And they, like, go into wars and all that. And she gets shrunken down to their size, and, falls in with them. And and then they're having like this war with Christoph Waltz. Like the whole thing is he wants to destroy the rainforest. Like his line in the trailer, "I'm going to destroy the rainforest, but I'm going to do it once, so try to pay attention." That's pretty much the whole plot. The entire first hour is just them fucking around.
Yeah.
Like they hang out with Steven Tyler and they go to this place where there's like there's a lot of Avatar in it too.
Oh yeah.
Like not only is it the two different things coming together, but like the scenes where they get on things and they like when they get on birds and they fly. These are shots like right out of Avatar, and it's just. Yeah. You do have your comedy relief in Aziz Ansari and Chris O'Dowd as the snail and the slug. And they're really funny. Like, pretty much every time they're on screen, they do something funny.
Oh,
so
yeah.
They'll help you get through the movie as long as they're on screen. And Waltz, well, here's what I have a problem with Waltz. And it's not just Waltz. Like, I'm not calling Waltz out or anything. This isn't remotely any of the actors' faults, really. Well, we'll get into that. Some of the voice cast in this movie is Colin Farrell and Christoph Waltz and Beyonce and Steven Tyler. What's the problem here? Do you see what the problem is?
It's very interesting casting.
These actors' voices are way too distinct.
Oh, yeah.
When you hear these people talk, you know exactly who they are.
Tyler got hired because he could sing.
Yeah. When you hear these actors talk, all you can see is them in a recording booth.
Oh, yeah. I did that numerous times during the movie.
And that's a really bad thing to do. That's like, that's what's great about the work that Alan Tudyk and Sarah Silverman did in Wreck-It Ralph. Like, Vanellope and King Candy are like real characters with real voices, and Alan Tudyk and Sarah Silverman are not there. It's just these characters.
Exactly.
I don't even remember these people's names. Mandrake, I think, was Waltz's name.
Mandrake was Waltz's name.
But all I heard was Colin Farrell and Christoph Waltz and Amanda Seyfried and Hutcherson.
It was a problem, though. I mean, it's like you weren't looking at them as your characters. Like you said, that you were just imagining them in the... I can imagine Walt sitting there with his glasses on, talking to Pitbull, and just, like, made me laugh out loud.
It was really distracting.
Very much
Especially Beyonce. Like, I just don't like Beyonce at all, but...
I'm not a big fan myself.
Apparently, she was quoted, like, as thinking, like, I guess there was I think it was her. It might have been her or Tyra Banks. I don't remember which one. I think it was Beyonce, though. She said something stupid, like, I'm so powerful now I don't even realize it, or something.
That sounds like Tyra Banks more than Beyonce, but...
It was one...
She lives it more than Tyra Banks ever will.
But the thing is this movie just doesn't work. Like, maybe if the I can't even remember their names either, but maybe if the Snail and the Slug like get their own movie or like spin-off movies or something, I'd probably watch those.
Like the penguins in Madagascar?
Yeah, the Chris O'Dowd and Aziz are much better than that.
No lie.
But I mean, there are some good scenes. Like, it's got some good shots in it. Like, it's really, it's almost Malick-y footage. Like the scene where she sees the deer and it's like the sun's coming through, and we get that shot a few times though, and it kind of wears down. But they were able to, yeah.
They rode on a deer.
But the big problem with this movie is it doesn't offer anything new. Like, I just named off like 10 movies that I saw in this movie. One of which is, nobody saw this because as of...
Yeah.
I can't remember if something's taking that title now. I don't think so.
No. As far as I know, no.
There is an animated movie from 2008 called Delgo.
Yeah.
Which starred Freddie Prinze Jr. and Val Kilmer and Chris Kattan.
Yep.
And it, as of when it came out, and I think it still has the title, it was the lowest grossing wide release. I don't think it was just animated. I think it was movie.
I think it was ever.
Of all time. And yeah, it's horrible.
It had the biggest inside joke with me and my whole friend group for the longest time.
But Epic looks like that movie, and that movie was like this really, really cheap thing that nobody saw, and it just feels like as soon as I started watching Epic, I knew it was the movie I wasn't expecting it to be in a bad way. it was just so, it's so dull.
Kids hung
And
with it a lot more than I thought they would.
And there's nothing going on. Yeah, I don't know what, like, for some reason, the kids in the theater were loving this. Especially, you know, Aziz and Chris O'Dowd. Because I've advocated Chris O'Dowd even since, I didn't even like Bridesmaids, but when I saw Bridesmaids, I knew Chris O'Dowd was something awesome.
I've been a big Aziz fan since day one, too.
Yeah. But yeah, what we talked about with Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, North and the Invisibles, and Avatar, and Delgo.
So many things this movie tries to be.
And they keep saying the phrase from Small Soldiers,
Mm-hmm.
when Frank Langella keeps saying, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. They say that like 5 times. If this movie calling itself an epic with these big scenes is gonna rip off a movie like Small Soldiers.
The only distinction Small Soldiers has is it was Phil Hartman's last film.
I mean, Joe Dante is a very inspirational filmmaker, but Small Soldiers, if you're going to use any of his movies, use Gremlins or Matinee or something.
Matinee's awesome.
Or The Burbs, even.
Yeah, we're talking about Goodman a lot today.
Yeah.
Matinee's an awesome movie.
Yeah, Monsters University had like 5 different things on Epic.
And we're really promoting the movie.
It's like, I kept waiting for Sully to tell Mike to fucking go find Leslie Chow. But before I delve back into The Hangover by accident, let's keep going forward.
Please go forward.
The funny thing in this movie is, I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but there was twice in this movie where Walt's channels Hans Landa.
Yeah.
Where he has to ask Colin Farrell what the expression for something is. And it's like, I kept wanting to say, I kept wanting to hear Brad Pitt's voice say, shoes on the other foot, or you just say bingo.
Just say bingo.
I'm going to assume that was an in-joke.
I'm sure it was.
Because it's just a little weird that Mandrake just happened to wonder what the certain phrases of things were. That's very similar. Tarantino's probably going to get pissed off if he finds out.
Like the weird use of the artist in Escape from Planet Earth this year.
That made sense, though, because Weinstein was involved.
Yeah, it was still awesome. It isn't in joke to people that were paying attention, the 4 people that would know that joke and watch the movie.
But yeah, now, it's not this bad, but I couldn't help but laugh to myself, because I kind of felt like Aziz said what I was thinking to the writers. And they set themselves up for this bad. They almost set themselves up as bad as they did for the reviews to say epic fail.
Oh, yeah.
There's a scene where Mandrake has everybody. For a reason I can't remember, the snail and the slug are within him too. And he's like he's giving this big speech. And then Aziz finally just screams, "Stop, your stories are so boring and torturous."
Yeah, we're the only ones that were laughing at this too.
It's like, that's a dangerous thing to say, movie.
No lie. Didn't they get kidnapped because they were the keeper of like the pod or something like that? So they had to. It was like, we were the only ones who can take that. Okay, fine, we're going to take you too.
It was something like that.
Yeah.
I remember. The movie kept losing me because it wouldn't keep with its story, because the entire first hour is just nothing.
He just looked at me at one point. He's like, "Are you bored?"
It's like
A little bit.
The first hour of Epic is like the first 10 minutes of Arrietty stretched out.
Yeah, I can see that. Wow.
Without the creativity.
You hated Arrietty.
I didn't.
You told me you didn't like it.
I just thought there were a lot of animated movies better last year.
I agreed.
And I thought Arrietty was kind of forgettable, because they kind of delved into the familiar territory. Well, Arrietty is a take on The Borrowers.
Yeah, exactly.
This is trying to pass itself off as something original, beside the fact that it's based off the book.
Yeah.
The book that is not The Borrowers, or Arthur and the Invisibles.
And it's stealing off so many other different properties that it cannot ever be.
And there is this, I don't want to overthink things or anything, but obviously, as we know, the movie ends with her being big again and everybody else staying small. But she, like, stays friends with them, and she's like, her and Hutcherson have, like, it's always weird to see, maybe I'm just weird for finding it weird, but I find it weird when animated characters kiss, and we're supposed to feel something. But, well, there have been some exceptions, but
yes,
in this particular case, they do the romance thing, and they have their romance. That's pretty much what the first hour is them building on this romance.
Yep.
then, of course, you think they're going to be this forbidden thing because she grows again and he's still small. But the movie ends with them still, you know, trying to make this work. I suppose God bless them for trying to make this work. Like, I've seen relationships under much better circumstances.
No lie.
But that was a weird ending. Like, I guess she's just gonna go hang out with them. I guess like
her and her dad actually were leaving. That's the last scene. They literally go into the woods and with their protective Wayne Zelinsky gear and go out and
they have like helmets and shit that make things like look.
Yep.
Like they make themselves more audible to each other and they can see them better. But
yep.
Even so, you know, if you go running out there, you know, just willy-nilly, you might accidentally, you know, take them all out.
Yeah.
You know, because the big thing was Colin Farrell made the point about how we've been leading him here, but we're actually over here the whole time. And well, now that he knows where they are, you know, he can just run through there anytime he wants to, and disasters can happen. But the movie ends before that.
There won't be a 2.
They probably wanted to do a 2, but they didn't realize they were opening the Fast 6 at the time, probably. I'm sorry, Vin Diesel, I called it Fast 6. I know you hate that.
I called you Mark Vincent on this video. I think he hates that more.
Yeah, I think that's about it for Epic. We've been going for almost an hour now, and I have one movie left. And I don't have notes for this movie. I gotta go off memory, but it shouldn't be that hard. Because the movie's only about an hour or so long. But
I can't believe that either.
There's a horror movie you might have heard about with, I don't remember her name. This is horrible. She's the star of it, she's the director, and she wrote the story, but I don't remember her name. I'm usually more prepared than this.
It's alright.
She's Mark Duplass's wife, though.
Yeah, I don't know her
So
name.
we'll just call her that. It stars her and Lake Bell and Kate Bosworth. And it's called Black Rock. And it's this indie... It came out at Sundance last year to quite a bit of acclaim. Like, the critics are really loving it. But it's one of the worst movies of the year. And I know I'm saying that a lot, but that's only because there's a lot of bad movies this year.
Yeah, no lie.
When I do a bottom 5 at the end of the year, I have no idea what's going to be on it. But the basic story is there's... Well, they do this forced back. Mark Duplass wrote the script. And last year, he and his brother wrote and directed one of the best movies of many years, which was Jeff Who Lives at Home. Like that, I just can't get enough of that movie. That's like...
It's an amazing film.
It's... I can't even speak when I talk about Jeff Who Lives at Home because it's just that fucking good.
It made me understand that Ed Helms is a good actor.
Yeah.
Before then, I really wasn't that... Like, Cedar Rapids is a different story. I like Cedar Rapids, though.
A lot of people talk about Jason Segel, but Ed Helms was Oscar-worthy. And if I could have, I would have given Susan Sarandon every award under the sun.
We tried. It didn't work.
I'm currently in love with Susan Sarandon, and it's because of that movie. Despite how long I've known her. I think the first movie I ever saw her in was either... I'm pretty sure I saw her in a movie long before Rocky Horror, but I can't think of what it would have been.
Not sure.
But either way, I've known about her for almost my whole life. And maybe Thelma and Louise was my first taste of her.
Possible.
But either way, I've known her for a very long time, and I've just now recently fell in love with her because of Jeff Who Lives at Home.
Such an amazing performance, too, if you haven't seen it.
Having said that, Mark Duplass wrote the script for this, too. And it begins with Kate Bosworth and Lake Bell, I think. I got the two confused through the whole movie, because they kind of look alike.
Not good.
But Kate Bosworth, and I'm pretty sure it was Lake Bell, are coming to go on a boating trip, like to this place they used to hang out.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's the name of the place. I can't remember if they brought that up or not. But, and they run into their friend there, and it's the other girl, and her and Lake Bell have issues because one of them banged the other's boyfriend a long time ago.
Ah.
But this isn't brought up till later, but then they just do it in a big exposition, like an attempt at character development. But anyway, something is totally off with Kate Bosworth's character, because you know how everybody has been to that place where you have two friends that don't get along, and you just want everybody to get along, so you can do something fun. Do you know what Kate Bosworth's approach is to that? This is like the first 10 minutes of the movie, and this is the kind of time where you use them to say, these are the characters and these are why you should care about them.
Yep.
Well, in the first 10 minutes, they start arguing, And Kay Bosworth says, no, guys, trust me, we really got to go on this trip together, and we can't fight about it. And finally she breaks up the fight by screaming, I have cancer. And she gives this big, tearful monologue about this sickness that she's had for a really long time, and that she's dying from it. And then she laughs it off and says, actually, I don't really have cancer. How do you care about a character when that's your introduction to them, that they fake having cancer?
If you have an hour, you have to go right into your actual story, though.
This was the problem, as good at writing as Mark Duplass is, sometimes his movies are a little, too indie, but Jeff Lives at Home proved he can really, really write when he's at it.
Oh, yeah.
This script felt so amateur. Like, I would really hope this is just a script he wrote a really long time ago, and it's just now getting, out there and made. But it felt like something that something he would have written like long before he got good at writing.
He wrote it in high school.
Yeah. But finally we spend our time with these characters and we get to know them and all that, and they find bullshit reasons to talk about their past lives so we know who they are. And then about 50 minutes, the movie's an hour and 19 minutes. That's not 90, that's 19, that's 19. About 50 minutes in, a plot finally happens, and that's these rednecks come out of the woods, and they've been hunting, despite the fact that it's not hunting season. So they're stable.
Of course.
So, this is basically Mark Duplass's Deliverance.
Oh, okay. I was thinking Wrong Turn. But...
So they're gathered around this campfire, and they're eating SpaghettiOs, and they're having fun, but they're getting drunk, too.
Of course.
I don't remember where the beer came from. I think they had it when they came on the trip. But these are guys that they knew. One of the guys they knew from school. They knew his brother.
Okay.
And the other two are just guys that are with him. Anyway, the one girl gets drunk and goes into the woods for wood for the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy follows her that they know. And he tries to rape her. So she hits him with a rock and kills him. By accident.
Okay.
However, the other hunters think that this was done on purpose, and that she deserved to be raped because she was a slut, is what they were saying. Basically.
I spit on your grave?
Yeah, it's kind of like that, too. But anyway, the rape doesn't actually really ensue. Like, it starts, too, but then she kills him before it can happen.
Okay.
And I've heard of being really close friends with people. Like, I've heard of doing anything for your friends.
Yeah.
This guy's death causes those rednecks to go completely insane and will stop at nothing to kill these three girls over this. Like, they all seemed fine around the campfire, and then suddenly this one death, and they're all like, they are bloodthirsty. And the rest of the movie is them chasing the girls around this island, trying to kill them.
Are they, like, sociopaths? Are they, like,
never learn.
crazy? We don't know anything?
They just go from cool guys around the campfire to murderers. Just like that.
It's a natural progression, apparently, in the woods.
Yeah, it's just like a switch happened. Like, they must have been really, really fucking close to this guy.
He was like my brother, man. We gotta take him out.
But anyway, so that's by the way, Kate Bosworth is the biggest name in this movie, but she's third credited. Guess who dies a little early? And there's a big, you would think that Mark Duplass wouldn't want his wife just out there like that, but it's almost like this, maybe it was her idea, I don't know. He wrote the script, but she gets the story credit. There's a scene where they do it for realism, but it's just, to get attention and to get talked about, but they try to get out to their boat, so they have to wade through the water, but then they start getting shot at, so they run back out of the water and back into the woods. Of course, they're soaked from head to toe, and it's nighttime, so they're freezing. A little overly freezing, like Lake Belle's teeth are about to chatter right out of her mouth. So, of course, the big scene everybody's talking about that knows about the movie is the two girls strip down completely and have to do the body heat thing. And, yes, there's full frontal nudity and all that, but I guess, despite the fact that you have to get them naked for realistic purposes, yeah, about being realistic, so they're completely naked and they're huddled in this corner, and then they say, we got to get out of here because they're going to find us here. They run through the forest, totally naked. Now, once again, I'm not complaining, but I'm not advocating it either. Because here's the thing. They're running through the woods totally naked. They've gone pretty far away now, and they dig up their, like, I guess they left a time capsule or something here once.
Okay.
And then they're at night, and they, like, camp out. And then the next day, they're back in their clothes. So, in order for them to not have to do full frontal nudity for the rest of the movie, what you had to make them realistically do is leave this place, because they would be found there and killed. Run all the way through the woods completely naked. When the sun comes up, go all the way back to that place, get your clothes, because they didn't take their clothes with them when they ran through the woods.
Oh my god.
So, you know, you just gotta, you know, so the only reason he had them get naked was for realistic purposes, you know.
I wanted attention.
If you realistically want them to have to run back and get their clothes where they abandoned them originally, just because the sun came up, okay. But, you know, whatever.
That makes no sense.
If I were writing a movie with my wife in it, I would not write a scene like that.
No, not at all.
You know. But, you know, like I said, she got the story credit, so maybe it was her idea. So, okay. But, that's pretty much it. Like, it gets a little gruesome towards the end. Like, kind of like A Perfect Getaway is what it reminded me of at the end.
Interesting. That makes it sound good, though.
But go watch A Perfect Getaway instead of Black Rock.
Yeah.
So, I think that's it. I didn't write any notes on Black Rock. I had to go on memory with that. But I think that wraps up this week.
We got next week. Got a lot of stuff coming up in the coming week.
After Earth, Now You See Me, The Iceman, Mud, and I guess I could touch on Behind the Candelabra since it premieres tonight.
Sounds good.
I'm sure I'll see it in the next day or two.
So a lot of stuff still to come in the coming week from AJ, and different movie reviews that are going to be coming out. Hopefully we'll get those out before Sunday.
Also, I won't do a full review because I don't know how to, but I'll just throw out the documentary Sound City that Dave Grohl did about the recording studio.
That went to Athens at one point too. We didn't get a chance to catch it before it left.
I actually watched it just recently. I checked that out. It's very interesting because they show like everybody that's recorded there, and they actually bring some of them back, and he's got like I think it was like the old Nirvana crew.
Yeah.
But instead of Cobain, they had Paul McCartney.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
And that's the last scene of the documentary is them playing songs with him, and it's I'd check that out if you can find it. So
definitely.
Yeah, that's about it for this week. So until next week.